It's Mikey, who is a Blackburn fan, and he's going to join in the debate. Mikey, a very good evening to you.
Hey, how's it going? You okay?
Not bad at all. Mikey, did the Blackburn fans do themselves any credit at all during the course of the 90 minutes of that game last night? Because it was obvious where the majority of the loyalties lay from the very, very start. The game kicked off with chance of Kean out, Kean out. I mean, what chance did anybody have last night?
To be honest, in answer to your question, yeah, I think the Rovers fans did do themselves credit. If I defy any team's fans to sort of go through the sort of, and I use the word hell quite lightly, but yeah, what we've been through the last sort of 12, 18 months and not get a bit frustrated by things. Fine, I accept that, you know, it probably didn't help the overall course and the match outcome, but there's a lot of bottled up frustration in there and it had to come out at some point, and what better than in front of the cameras where it can be heard a bit more vocally.
Mike, have you seen this letter that Paul Hunt has sent to Mrs. Desai?
I have, yeah. I saw it this afternoon, yeah.
Do you find it incredible that he's never met her? The chairman...
Has he had a response to that letter?
Yeah, he must have had a response. They haven't released a response, but yeah. I find it amazing that an acting chief executive has never even met the chairman of the football club.
I think it depends on how much attention you've been paying to Blackburn the last sort of year or so. If you've noticed or read any of the previous letters they've printed or any of the gossip you tend to hear, it doesn't actually shock me that they've not met. It all seems to be done via email and phone calls and stuff. As far as I'm aware, actually, that letter that Paul Hunt sent to Mrs. Desai, she didn't really respond, apart from just a token response. She actually forwarded it on to Steve Kean, if you believe the newspaper.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Considering there was a clause in it which said Steve Kean should be sacked. When we say that that claim in that letter, you said that he's lost the dressing room. The lad from Blackburn this morning, the Scouser, who I saw talking after the game last night, said, no, Steve Kean's done everything. You know, he's tried terribly hard to keep it going. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you never, ever get a player will come out and criticise their manager.
No, it's like publicly in front of a Sky camera.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, if he's done everything he possibly could, it hasn't been enough. He hasn't been good enough, and his team hasn't been good enough. And I think Mike agreed with Blackburn fans saw this coming 18 months ago.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think from the Steve Kean point of view, don't get me wrong, there has been some points this year where I felt a little bit sorry for him, not because of what he's been getting from the fans, but because of the way Venky's run the club. He's often left to answer questions in things like press conferences that really no manager should be, you know, it's not in his job description to answer. There's just no one else there to do it.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. Mikey, what about his most flamboyant statement in the 24 hours since that game? When asked, do you expect to be here next season? Oh, yes, I certainly do. And then starts giving us his breakdown on how he's going to rebuild the squad over the summer. So is there still no direction at Blackburn?
That's the problem. I could accept going down, you know, if it was like purely like a sporting element and we just weren't good enough on a level playing field. But we've shot ourselves in the kneecap with the way that the club's been run, and the fact that he's coming out with such ridiculous statements like a few minutes after being relegated just shows he's very, very cocksure of himself, and he knows that he's got the backing of the owners, because at best the owners are completely naive.
Yeah. The thing is though, Mike, as well, financially, you know, when people say, oh, it's going to cripple Blackburn, they are still quite a well-run club. There's no debt, they pay 10, but the owners are sitting there and they're still going to, over the next 4 years, they're guaranteed £48 million.
Yeah.
They get £24 million first year parachute payment, 24 million second, third 12 and fourth 12. So they're not...
Hang on, that's 60. 24 first year, 12 second and third year.
Yeah. They get 48 million quid.
That's right, yeah.
So,
so
they're not panicking, are they?
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity is still there for them to turn it around, in the fact that to commit to the club properly, because in the last year or so they've not committed to the club properly. They got into it, I think, thinking that it was going to be a lot easier to run than it was, and I don't think they actually expected the level of passion that football fans have for their teams in England. And you know, I think they've just come into it very blindly. There's a chance for them to turn it around. There is. I don't think they will, but
that's a huge job considering they couldn't manage it. Mikey, do you wish you'd never heard of the name Venky's? because you used to be run by the Jack Walker Trust. Now, what happened was economics in football multiplied 100-fold since Jack Walker set up that trust before he sadly died in the year 2000, and it just simply isn't enough money these days to make you competitive. But you'd still be a homely club and still be friends with each other if he was, you know, his trust was still in charge.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, any passion that the owners or any owner has had for running Blackburn Rovers unfortunately died when Jack Walker did. Even under his sons and the trust, they were quite happy to appoint proper footballing people to actually run the club. I mean, the likes of John Williams and Tom Finn and Martin Goodman were all, you know, they all knew exactly what they were doing. They contributed to keep us in the league above our means almost in a way because it was that well run. But to go from that to this is absolutely soul destroying. I mean, watching last night, you know, reducing many a grown man to tears, including myself, and it was just a culmination of a long list of problems.
So also, Mike, what happens now is there'll be a changing of personnel. So your players like Yakubu, Junior Hoylett will want to go, Paul Robinson maybe, and Zonzi. So as long as that's the other thing, if that money comes in, as long as it doesn't go straight to the Desais and Venkis and they put it back into the playing staff, then fine.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's about 4 or 5 very saleable players who, unfortunately, I imagine their asking price will go down slightly in light of the division that we're playing in. But the likes of Nzonzi and Martin Olsen, certainly Paul Robinson as well, can all fetch money. As you've said, it's just really a question of how much of that are we actually going to see.
Yeah, it's a very sad situation. I mean, the thing is, Mikey, we have to decide this. Blackburn don't have a God-given right to remain in the Premiership just because you won the Premier League, although that was a magnificent effort. You're a middle rating club in terms of fan base and that sort of thing. I'm amazed it's taken 10 or 11 years, really, for this crisis to have hit you.
Yeah, I agree, trust me. I think sometimes the expectations among some fans, anyway, can be a bit high in light of what we've enjoyed, perhaps, in the 90s. But if you look at, like, the budget that we've operated under for the last decade since we last got promoted back in 2001, it's purely down to how well run the club was. We've been run, and I don't mean this at all biasly, we've been as well run as any club. Under the old regime. As I say, likes of John Williams, he kept us up single-handedly at times.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.